Hi guys, welcome back to part 3 of my birthing videos. This will be my last one. We talked about the 2 different experiences I've had in California, in San Jose, and one with the epidural and one natural, and how much better I felt with the natural, and everything along those lines, and how I dealt with a lot of stuff in California. When we moved to Idaho, we're now in Idaho. When we moved to Idaho, about 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant. It was actually the day after Xavier's first birthday, I found out I was pregnant again. This was not planned. This was an accident, but I'm so grateful for her being here, obviously. So when I found out I was pregnant, I obviously couldn't believe it. I didn't know what was going to happen because Xavier had just turned 1. And I was still breastfeeding him and everything like that. He was still my little baby. And when I found out I was pregnant, I found out also that I could not get health insurance out here because Idaho's minimum wage is way lower than California's, and Kyle makes the same amount of pay as he did in California, so he makes way more than the monthly limit for Medicaid out here. So I could not get health insurance. I didn't qualify. So when I found that out, I just decided that I just wouldn't really go see a doctor. I didn't really need to. I had been pregnant before. This is not new to me. I had a healthy pregnancy again, and I got up until 28 weeks without going to see a doctor. And I was fine. I was a little nauseous in the beginning, which I figured I was having a girl because I felt exactly the same way as I did when I was pregnant with Maya. I actually found out that I was pregnant the same way that I did with Maya because the smell of peanut butter made me nauseous, and I was like, oh no, something's wrong here. So that's how I found out I was pregnant. Because that's exactly what happened with Maya, the smell of peanut butter made me nauseous. And so I waited up until 28 weeks to go see a doctor. Now around here, I called different hospitals and found out, the first one that I called was like $900 to $1,000 for one prenatal appointment with or without an ultrasound. So that was that. I didn't really want any ultrasounds this time around just because, again, like I said, we found out the risks of getting multiple ultrasounds is actually really harmful to your baby. So I called around, and one of the places referred me to this place out here in Boise called Mercy Birth Center. Now I called and I went down there, and I found out that they have a payment scale. So based off of how much you make, they base your payment plan off of how much that you make. And so for everything, their basic care plan for prenatal appointments, birth, everything is $3,000 total, which is amazing because with Maya in San Jose, with insurance at Kaiser, I still had over a $2,000 bill. So I was like, yes, I'll take it. They charge you for ultrasounds and your blood tests and stuff like that in the very beginning, but they give you a 3-year period to pay it off in payments, however you can pay it. So I was like, yes, I'm doing it. And it was a natural birth center. It was like a home on a corner that they turned into a birth center. They had beds and bathtubs and private bathrooms, and it was amazing. They had a huge waiting room in the front, and then they had a personal waiting room in the back for when you're in labor. So I went out. I went in, and I was about right. I kind of knew what my body was at, and I was like right on the dot of how far along that I was. I ended up getting one ultrasound, and that's when I found out that I was having a girl, which I, again, pretty much already knew because I knew my symptoms. And I, again, wanted this to be an all-natural birth. And based off of my experience with Xavier, I was even more prepared for this one. So I went into this one way more confident. And I ended up getting the one ultrasound just to kind of make sure that I was as far along as I thought, because their rules are that I can have the baby there between 37 and 42 weeks. Other than that, I would be considered high risk, and they cannot take me. So they had to do one ultrasound to make sure that I was as far as long as I thought, not any sooner, not any later, because they had set an actual due date, and once that due date was set, they couldn't change it. So I had to have her in that time frame. So I had a normal pregnancy. I was healthy. I didn't do any of the glucose testing, which I didn't do with Xavier either, because it's not necessary. I don't have diabetes. I mean, I don't need to take it. So I didn't do any glucose tests. They didn't even really ask me to do it. I did a few blood tests just because I was anemic, so I had to make sure that I was upping my iron intake. And they wanted to check my iron levels to make sure that I was doing okay. And yeah, they only did one ultrasound. They didn't need to do any more. They didn't really ask. They didn't do any vaginal screening. They didn't do anything like that. They didn't have to look in there at all. It was the least invasive experience out of all of them, and it was great. They didn't do any pap smears. They didn't do anything. They did, they just did a basic checkup. They checked her heartbeat every time. They measured me, told me, if she was head down or whatever. So the day she was due on August, I don't remember what day she was due. I think like August, 15th, I think, something like that. August 16th, August 15th. And my due date comes and goes. They don't even check if I'm dilated. They just kind of wait. They're all about going the all-natural route, and they knew my stance on everything, so they didn't even check for dilation. They're just waiting for your body to naturally go into labor. So I again asked about the membrane stripping because my due date had come and gone past a week, and Xavier was 9 days late, and I knew that she was going to be late also. So they checked me. So they said yes, but we're going to wait until after 41 weeks, as close to 42 weeks as we possibly can. So I went in, let's see. I went in 2 days before my 42-week limit, my 42-week ending point. And I went in, I got my membrane stripped. They said I was about 2 centimeters dilated, and they did my membrane stripping. And I was ready. I was like, get this baby out of me. I've been pregnant for way too long. This pregnancy was a lot harder this time around because I already have 2 little people that I have to take care of. Xavier's still a baby, and Maya is running around. She's a toddler. So I was exhausted by the end of this pregnancy. And I was so big. And so I was ready to have her. So I get my membrane stripped early in the morning on the 22nd? No, on the 23rd. I had my membrane stripped early in the morning on the 23rd, and I was ready to go. Like I had Kyle and the kids with me. Like we didn't know what was going to happen. I thought she was going to come right away, just like Xavier did. So I went home and we hung out for a while, and I was just hanging out all day, kind of waiting. I walked around the house a lot. I was getting little cramps here and there, but nothing too major, no contractions, and then the cramping went away. So I was really discouraged. I didn't think I was going to be able to have her at the birth center. I thought I was going to have to go to a hospital and then induce me, and I didn't want to have to do that again. I just wanted to have a natural birth, and I was so excited to have her at a birth center and be all natural. And I went to sleep that night, kind of thinking in the back of my head, like, I might wake up going into labor. Like, what if I do? That was a big concern for us because we didn't want to have to take the kids out in the middle of the night. And then sure enough, I wake up at 1:45 and I have to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom like 3 times. I was like, okay, like something's going on here. And then I start getting contractions, and Xavier wakes up, of course. I start getting contractions, so I'm literally standing up, holding Xavier, and I wake Kyle up, and I'm like, I'm in labor. This is it. And so he starts freaking out because it's like 2 a.m, and I don't know what we're gonna do. And then of course Maya starts waking up. So now both of the kids are up. We're both up trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Luckily, his mom does live in Boise too, so she told us, whatever time you need to go, I have everything ready to go. Like, call me and I will be with the kids. So we didn't know what to do. We didn't know if we wanted her to come here. We didn't know if we wanted to bring them to the birth center. So ultimately, we ended up having to bring the kids, and his mom just met us at the birth center, which worked out really well. But my contractions started at around 1:45 in the morning on the 24th, and they lasted 2 hours. I had a 2-hour labor, and this time around I was way more comfortable. My contractions came so strong, so fast. They're immediately 1 minute long, and they weren't even lasting 5 minutes apart. They were so fast and so strong. And I timed them for an hour, and I breathed. The difference between this natural labor and Xavier's natural labor is I breathed through every contraction. I remember reading somewhere that the difference between this woman's natural labors is that the first one, you think about, you want the pain to go away. And that's exactly what I said with Xavier. I wanted the pain to go away. I didn't want to feel it anymore. But with Araya, I embraced the pain, and I thought about it while it was happening, and I thought, okay, this will pass, this will pass, this will pass. And I just breathed. I took really deep breaths in through my nose, out through my mouth, and I just let it pass, and it was so much more bearable. And I did, I was walking around, I was crouching down, I was trying to do everything that I could to just work through the pain. And yes, they were so painful, and I still think that I'm strong as hell for going through that, for doing that, and twice at that. Going through 2 natural labors is the most badass thing I've ever done, and I'm so proud of myself for that, and I'm so proud of anybody who does it, because geez, it's hard. And but this time around was so much easier than with Xavier, because I did embrace it and I did just let it pass. And we finally left here at, I think, around 3 or so, like between 3 and 3:30, and we got the kids loaded up and ready to go. And luckily it was in the middle of the night, because we live about 30 minutes away from the birth center, and if it was in the middle of the day, we would have been stuck in traffic, and I would have had her in the car, no doubt about it. We got to the birth center at right before 4, and she was born at 4:15. I pushed for 15 minutes. As soon as I got there, I immediately had to push. And when you're at a hospital, they hook you up to the IVs, they hook you up to the baby monitor so you can't move. You're strapped down, and you're not supposed to eat or drink. Here they encourage you to eat and drink while you're in labor, so you have that energy, you have that that stuff in your system, so you can push out a baby. They encourage you to walk around, to be able to do whatever you want. You can birth in any position. You can birth in the bathtub if you want to. It was literally the greatest experience of my whole life. And I walk in, and I immediately go inside on the bed. They're midwives, so they were just on call. It was me and 2 midwives, and that's it. There was nobody else there. And the midwife comes in, and she listens to the heartbeat for 1 minute, just to make sure that everything is okay, and that the baby's not under stress. And that's it. And she just listens to her for 1 minute. She goes, get comfortable, do whatever you need to do. And immediately, as soon as I got in the bed, I took my pants off, I got undressed, and she goes, do you need to push? And I said, yes. I didn't even have a chance to do anything. I walked in and I needed to push immediately. And so I laid on the bed. They went to grab Kyle, because Kyle was still trying to get the kids set up with his mom, and he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's already coming. So Kyle runs in, and I'm pushing. I'm laying on my back, because I wanted to try a different position, but honestly, laying on my back was the most comfortable thing for me, and it was the most natural for me, because that's the way I had birthed my other 2. So I was laying on my back, and I pushed, and I asked her, I was like, should I lay like this? Should I try something else? Should I grab my knees? And all she said was, do whatever is most comfortable for you. I'm not going to tell you anything. She's like, you can lay on your side. I don't really care. Do what you need to do. And she was just there. She barely said a word to me. She was just there to help me get through it and to, do her job, to catch my baby and to make sure that I was doing okay and that I wasn't bleeding out or anything like that. And, she wasn't talking to me every 15 seconds. She was just there for support, and it was amazing. And Kyle ended up catching her. He ended up catching Araya, which is amazing that they even offered that. I didn't even know that was a thing. So yes, your partner can catch your baby, or you can catch your baby, or whoever you want to catch your baby can catch your baby. That's a thing. Another thing that they did was they immediately put her on me skin to skin. They didn't ask, they didn't immediately take her away. They did not cut the umbilical cord until after an hour, which again we learned was very beneficial for the baby. She gets all of her vitamins and nutrients from the umbilical cord. So they took her out. They took my placenta out. They stuck the placenta next to me in a bag. And I know this is kind of pretty gross for some people, but you don't see it. You're not looking at it the whole time. And she's still attached to her umbilical cord. They don't clamp it. They don't do anything. They just lay her on me, and I do my skin to skin, and they leave the room. And they come and check on me every once in a while, just making sure that I'm doing okay. And they just let me be. And they, I try to latch. I try to get her to latch, and she's laying there, and they give me my skin to skin, one-on-one time with her, and they let me bond with her without any interruptions, and it was amazing. And after an hour or so, that's when Kyle had gone home after that. The kids had come in and said hi, and his mom had come in and said hi. But it was like 6 in the morning, like 5 in the morning. Kyle took the kids home and put them back to sleep because they had been up since 1:45 in the morning. So Kyle put them back to sleep, and his mom stayed with me so she could take me and the baby home. And I laid there with Araya with her umbilical cord attached for over an hour, and then they finally come in, and I got to cut the umbilical cord this time, which obviously I didn't get to do with the other two. Kyle did, but I thought it was so cool to be able to do that to my own child, and the fact that Kyle got to catch her, which was amazing. And then they weighed her, which they don't have like a regular scale. What they did is they wrapped her in a blanket, and then they had this metal, how do I explain it? It's like this metal pole, and you pull the top off, and it's just like it's a scale that you can weigh vertically, and they just wrap her up into this little burrito, and they pull it up, and that's how they weighed her. And she was 6 pounds 15 ounces, or 6 pounds 13 ounces, and she was the smallest of the bunch. She was the smallest out of all three, and which only makes sense because she's the baby. They didn't bathe her. They didn't even ask to bathe her, which is amazing because the remnants that they come out with is actually very healthy for their body. So if you can delay bathing your child, do it for as long as you possibly can. Rub in the remains onto your body, onto the baby's body, because it's very, very good for their skin. Araya has had the best skin out of the three too. So just again, something we learned. We did not do vitamin K with her. We did not do the eye drops with her. We did not do vitamin K, or we did not do hepatitis B. We didn't do anything for her. And she is the purest out of the three. And again, it was just more we learned as time went on. And she was great. She was so healthy, and they didn't bother me at all. And they told me I can go home anytime. The only thing that I had to do after or before I could go home was that I had to pee. That's it. So I chugged a bunch of water. I felt great. Kyle came in, and his mom came in, and they're like, you don't even look like you just had a baby. Like, I can't believe you just pushed out a baby. Like, I looked tired. That was it. And because my labor was only 2 hours, I didn't have any pain medication in me. I pushed for 15 minutes. Nobody was in there bothering me. I was able to leave whenever I needed to leave. Like, nobody was holding me there for 24 hours for no reason. Araya was healthy. I was healthy. I was doing fine. I didn't tear. Everything was looking great. The only thing I had to do was pee. So I chugged a ridiculous amount of water, and I ended up coming home at 8 a.m. that morning. I went in, I had her at 4:15 a.m. and I left and I got home at like 8:30 the same morning. So it was a great experience. It was the best experience I've ever had. And then after that, you know, they don't push anything on you. They just, okay, you peed, great. You're discharged, you're ready to go. Have a great time. And you know, they don't push you into doing anything. You know, they asked me about the RhoGAM shot again because Araya's blood type was positive. So they did ask me about it because they, you know, if you do the research on the RhoGAM shot, it's supposed to prevent you from having a miscarriage from your next baby. If you have a negative blood type in your baby that you had is positive, it will attack your next baby, supposedly. But I didn't get the RhoGAM shot this time, and you know, they didn't pressure me into it. They just kind of told me the risks about it, and they had me sign a paper, and that was it. They didn't tell me a bunch of horror stories or anything like that. They didn't, you know, try to make me feel bad about my decision. They just like, okay, you know the risks, great, here you go. That's fine. That's your decision. Which is what doctors should do. They should be like, okay, that's your decision, move on. But at hospitals, they don't do that. So, you know, you get what you get. So the next day, you know, they came to my house. They came over for the 24-hour visit because they believe that you shouldn't leave your house within the next 24 hours because you just birthed a baby. Like, you don't need to go anywhere, which was, again, really great. And I, again, breastfed with Araya. She latched right away, and she has been a very strong eater from the beginning. She does not stop eating, so she's thriving. She's growing great, and she's so healthy. She's amazing. She just turned 12 weeks, and she's so funny. She's getting such a great personality. She smiles at everything now. She was colicky. She's still a little, but she's slowly getting over it now that she's closer to 3 months. So that was really difficult in the beginning, and I think I'm gonna make like a separate video kind of going over our journey the last 12 weeks and what we have had to deal with and what we have had to learn with having 3 kids. So, you know, stay tuned for that because I think it's very interesting, and you know, it's something that we had to kind of adjust to having 3 kids. So yeah, that has been my best experience so far, because I knew my rights and I knew that what I wanted, and I went somewhere that they were ready to accommodate that, and I know that's not, you know, the case for everybody, and I'm so incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed that I was able to find this place, and you know, I don't know if they have, I'm sure they have them other places, but it's probably not as, you know, as easy to afford as it is here in Idaho. And you know, that's one of the reasons why we're so lucky to be here at the time that we were, because who knows what would have happened if we were in California. And I'm so thankful every day that I was able to have that experience for my last child, because it was the best thing that I've ever done, and I felt amazing when I left there, and I'm so glad that I am able to share my experience, because I've had 3 kids, 3 different experiences in 2 different states, and not many people can say that as far as I know, and I'm very, very thankful that I'm able to share this with a lot of people and tell you, please stand up for what you believe in. Please, please, please stand up for what you believe in. Please do your research about what you're doing, and don't be naive to hospital workers. Don't think that they're in it for your best interest, because they're not. They're just doing their job. They don't care. And I had to learn the hard way, and most people do have to learn the hard way, especially first-time moms, and they feel bullied into doing things that they don't want to do. Just, again, I'm going to say this again, please, please, please stand your ground, and you know, fight for what you believe, and be strong, and know that you're going to get through it. And if you can have a natural birth, I highly suggest it, because it has been the best experience. I'm so glad that I didn't get an epidural or any pain medication the last 2 times, because being able to feel everything, literally everything, was amazing. it was the best experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to do that. And I feel like Superwoman that I can accomplish anything. I mean, I birthed 3 babies, but I birthed 2 of them naturally. So like, I can do anything as far as I'm concerned. So again, thank you so much for watching, and please share to anybody that you know that is pregnant, that is scared, and I want you to feel confident in your decisions, and I want you to feel confident in having that baby and going home and knowing that you can do this, because that's another scary thing, is that once you leave the hospital for the first time, because they're there so much, you don't think that you can do it, and you go home and you're like, what am I supposed to do now, you know? And I want to instill that confidence in you that I have now, knowing that you can do it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, especially when you're trying to heal from having a baby. And if you are breastfeeding, you know, it's difficult. It's really hard, but you're going to get through it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to love every second of it when you look back at it. So thank you so much. And I really hope this can help anybody. At least one person. I hope that I can help you, and I will talk to you later.